been out for a couple of weeks, haven't you?
Been out more than I've been in.
Huh? Oh, yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Got to make hay while the sun is shining. Nothing I can do about that. Oh, yeah.
Good morning. This is a Board of County Commission meeting for Thursday, August 23rd, 2018. Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Schaefer.
Here.
Commissioner Allen.
Here.
Commissioner Klicka.
Here.
Commissioner Osterhaus.
Here.
Commissioner Ashcraft. Commissioner Brown. Here. And Chairman Eilert is absent.
We do have a quorum. Will you please join me with the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
At this time, will you please silence any electronic devices? This meeting is being streamed. We do have one proclamation to read. Trent, and anyone else with you this morning?
No, just me.
Okay, well, thank you. Today we have a proclamation for National Preparedness Month. National Preparedness Month creates an important opportunity for every resident of Johnson County to prepare their homes, business, and communities for any type of emergency, including natural disaster and potential terrorist attacks. Emergency preparedness is the responsibility of every citizen of Johnson County, and all citizens are urged to make preparedness a priority and work together as a team to ensure that individuals, families, and communities are prepared for disasters and emergencies. On behalf of the board, I am pleased to proclaim September as National Preparedness Month. Would you like to make any comments?
Yeah, briefly, please. Thank you. First, I'd like to thank the Board of County Commissioners for their continued support in proclaiming September as National Preparedness Month. Usually I use this time to remind people that Johnson County is indeed vulnerable to both man-made and natural disasters. However, I feel like over the past year, Mother Nature has done a pretty good job of that for us. In 2018, Johnson County has experienced an EF1 tornado that went from Overland Park into Leawood. We've experienced 17 different severe thunderstorm warnings, including 2-inch hail and 70-mile-an-hour winds. And right now, we're in the process of wrapping up a federally declared major disaster declaration for Johnson County for flooding that occurred in 2017. Record-breaking flooding, in fact. That is the first major declaration in Johnson County since 2002, if anyone remembers the ice storms. So that just goes to show how important it is to prepare for both man-made and natural disasters. We encourage everyone to get connected, to make a plan, and gather supplies to help them become better prepared. And if anyone's looking for more information on that, we encourage them to go to our website, joco72.org, just to see how easy it is to become better prepared. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. At this time, I'm going to go to our county manager, Penny Postos Ferguson, for an announcement.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm pleased to announce my appointment for Deputy County Manager, and it's Maury Thompson. Many of you know Maury. He's been the interim deputy county manager since January, and he's been assistant county manager since January of 2013. He actually began his experience here with Johnson County back in 1986 with JCDS, Johnson County Developmental Supports, and held various positions. And from 2007 to 2013 was the executive director. He has a lot of experience, as you all know, in health and human services, criminal justice, has been very helpful with workforce development, legislative affairs, and many other things. I should mention fire, since Chief is here too. Maury has a lot of, as you know, experience in the region, serving on task forces and building relationships with nonprofits and our partners in the community. And so I'm pleased to announce Maury. And I do want to take a minute to thank our full team of all the assistant managers who have taken on extra duties during this interim period, including obviously Maury, and Joe Waters, assistant county manager, and Aaron Otto, the interim assistant county manager. This team I've been very proud to serve with and has helped me and all of us get through the interim period. And so I want to say a special thank you to all Joe, Aaron, and Maury. But please join me in congratulating Maury on this new role. Want to say a few words?
Yes, he does. Ron says, yes, I do, so I guess I do. Well, I'd just like to start with obviously saying thank you, and particularly thank you to the county manager for this trust and confidence placed in me and appointing me to this position. It's been a pleasure to spend so many years of my professional career working and serving this organization. It's a fantastic place to be. So I continue to look forward to working with the most professional staff that I'm convinced exists across this nation here in Johnson County government, with Penny and with this board, to continue to make this the best place to live, work, and play in the United States. So thank you all.
Thank you, Maury.
And I might add, thank you for this deviation in schedule. I'm going to leave now. We are in the midst of hiring for a critical leadership position for the organization, and due to our team schedules, our applicant schedules, this was the only day that worked for them, so I'll be stepping back out. So thank you again, though.
Thank you, Maury. Very well deserved. At this time, we'll go to public comments. If anyone would like to address the commission on an item that does not appear elsewhere, they can do so now. Can you please state your name and address? You have 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Mark Kind. I live at 8336 Grant Circle in Overland Park. I'm an attorney, and I work here in Johnson County. On Election Day, I worked at a voting location here in the county, and I agree that everything ran smoothly, as Election Commissioner Ronnie Metzger told this board at your August 9th meeting, two days after the election. However, at the end of the election day, after the voters had all had their opportunity, we had a brief failure of our location's master USB stick on the very last voting machine while we were aggregating all the votes of the day onto that stick. So an election judge and I had to improvise. Now, we were worried that we would send a corrupted USB stick to election headquarters, and vote counters and news reporters would be up all night counting our votes because of something we did wrong. Our instructions called for us to remove that USB stick after we had collected votes from the last machine, and then immediately reinsert that stick back into that same last machine, so that we could close out the USB stick with all of the day's electronic ballots and totals on it. Then that last voting machine was supposed to print out a paper tape showing the totals of all the ballots cast on each machine at our voting location. All workers were supposed to sign this paper tape. So when an election judge and I inserted that master USB stick into the last machine, nothing happened. The touch screen on the voting machine did not display the commands that we needed to use to close out that USB disk and the machine and the voting location. So we had no instructions for this problem. We had plenty of instructions, but none for this problem. So we began to improvise. We could have just pulled out that master USB stick and sent it to election headquarters without printing or signing the final tape. We did not do that. We could have left the stick in the machine and waited for it to wake up and display the proper commands on the touch screen. We did that for a minute or two, but we became concerned when nothing happened, and so we continued to improvise. We removed the USB stick and repeated that final insertion. We did that 3 times. And finally, the proper commands appeared on the screen. We followed instructions, we printed out the tape, everyone signed it, and our master USB stick left headquarters at about 7:30 p.m. This sounds like, of course, a minor problem. Sounds like we resolved it. I don't know whether we did. I don't know whether we corrupted that stick when we inserted it 3 times. I don't know whether other locations experienced the same problem and improvised in different ways. So Mr. Metzger told you that the vote counting machines at election headquarters failed to promptly upload the votes from those 192 master USB sticks that the polling locations sent to headquarters. He said there's a glitch in the software at headquarters that uploads vote totals to the tallying machines. And he told you that the ES&S company takes full ownership for the failure of our system on election night. But if he's right, there might be 2 glitches in the system. At least one voting machine, or the people who were operating it, had a problem preparing a master USB stick on election night. I do not know whether this problem existed elsewhere. On Tuesday, the Shawnee Post reported that Kansas statute allows this commission very little control over the election office. You can't hire and fire the commissioner, for example. But this commission can ask questions. You can hire investigators. I should throw in the word taxpayers here, I'm sure. And you can demand information from the election office. For example, you could ask the election office to report to you how many voting locations successfully printed out and signed a paper tape. Or you could send an investigator to see how many tapes are at Kansas City Road at the office. Our new $13 million voting system has probably given you unprecedented power to enforce accountability. The voting system generates a ton of data. 4 different databases collecting votes themselves. Another failure, well, it's essential that this commission aggressively exercise its oversight powers. Another failure in November would be an outrageous scandal. As you know, Mr. Metzger is under the supervision of a Secretary of State who has broken federal law with regard to voter registration and has been held in contempt of court for failing to comply with the law. And the Secretary of State is on the November ballot for governor, thanks to winning enough votes in Johnson County to put him over the top in the election primary. If the voting system fails in November and the Secretary of State becomes governor by a narrow margin or some other closely contested race is in question, we have to understand that trust in government, trust in the election system will be very tenuous. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else that would like to address the commission?
Tom Raby, 17513 West 113th Street in Olathe. And I don't like to revisit the past too much, but we had an election commissioner one time who misappropriated a bunch of funds. Did we ever get the money back from that? I never got an answer. And that's a rhetorical question. If you want to address it, fine. If you don't, fine. I don't know. Then the public doesn't know. But today I wanted to talk about tax burden for old folks. Commissioner Brown addressed this in his in the discussion on the county budget. And Commissioner Ashcraft said we should not be basing our spending on our revenues, but rather on cost of living.
Could you say that again, Mr. Raby?
Pardon?
Would you say that again, Mr. Raby?
I said we should not spend our money based on revenues, but based on cost of living. Something to that effect. I'm paraphrasing, so I'm not a recorder. But these are things that I do agree with. One of our county's legislators instituted legislation to defer property tax increases for senior citizens. You don't know what happened to that. Most of us don't know what happened to that. I did some research, and it failed in committee. What does that mean? Committee chair wouldn't take it up, or it actually was voted on in committee and failed. We don't know. The reports are real vague on these things, but that was a good idea. But any other legislators pick that up and try to defer property tax for senior citizens? My point is that I just drove by Ridgeview Village this morning, and it ain't big enough. We're going to have more and more old people out of their homes, and they're going to have to move out of Johnson County, or we're going to have to give them housing in an expanded Ridgeview Village. And I don't mean literally give them, but provide affordable housing for these old folks. And that's my position on that. And I can remember right after I retired, I used to supplement my retirement income by finding coins in payphone coin slots. My wife would grab my elbow and drag me away, but hey, it worked. I didn't make a living doing that, but it was kind of a fun thing to do. Now the payphones are all gone. And then I used to find a few coins in a newspaper coin return. Well, guess what? The newspaper machines are about all gone. So a couple of sources of our supplemental income have dried up. So we've got to do something. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Notes for the record. I will be signing a partial release of easements for the Consolidated Main Sewer District due to the removal of sanitary sewer lines at Clare Creek Parkway and Marion Street in the city of Shawnee. Also, partial release of an easement for Consolidated Main Sewer District due to the removal of sanitary sewer lines at Knoll Avenue and Indian Creek Parkway in the city of Overland Park, and 2 partial releases of easements for Consolidated Main Sewer District due to the removal of sanitary sewer lines at Knoll Avenue and 95th Street in the city of Prairie Village. Clerk, please read the consent agenda.
Item number 1, consider approving the August 2nd, 2018 business session minutes. Item number 2, consider reappointing Karen Weber as the 3rd District Representative to the Commission on Aging through August 31st, 2021. Item number 3, consider reappointing Del Warman as the 1st District Representative to the Commission on Aging through August 31st, 2021. Item number 4, consider approval of a new 1-year agreement with the Arts Council of Johnson County for the purpose of providing information technology support services in the amount of $1,594. And item number 5, consider authorizing and submitting the Johnson County Department of Corrections State FY 2019 carryover reimbursement budget to the Kansas Department of Corrections as recommended by the Community Corrections Advisory Board in the amount of $170,293.11.
Thank you. Is there anyone on the commission that would like to remove an item for discussion on the consent agenda? Is there anyone in the audience that would like to remove an item for discussion? Hearing none, it's back before the board. Mr. Osterhaus.
I'll move that we approve the consent agenda as read.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for approval. Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Schaefer.
Aye.
Vice Chairman Allen.
Aye.
Commissioner Klicka.
Aye.
Commissioner Osterhaus.
Aye.
Commissioner Ashcraft.
Yes.
Commissioner Brown.
Aye.
Motion approved. Thank you. Action item number 6.
Resolution number 067-18 and resolution number 069-18. Consider applications to amend the exterior lighting plan of an approved preliminary development plan for a warehouse distribution center known as the Midwest Commerce Center, MCC, at Mercury Street and Highway 56, and amend the exterior lighting plan for an approved final development plan for a 646,000 square foot warehouse building under construction at 17001 Mercury Street.
Good morning, Mr. Leipzig.
Good morning, Mr. Vice Chair, members of the board, Jay Leipzig, Planning Department. This item is before you from the City of Gardner. It's to amend the exterior lighting plan at the Midwest Commerce Center. This item was unanimously approved by the Airport Commission on July 25th, 2018, also approved by the City of Gardner on July 16th. You're being asked to approve a preliminary development plan for the warehouse building, which is essentially the Coleman building, and then the approved final development plan for a 646,000 square foot building that is currently under construction.
Thank you. Any questions of the commission at this time? Is there anyone in the audience that would like to address this issue? It's back before the commission. Mr. Brown.
Thank you. I move that resolution number 067-18 be adopted, approving an amendment to the exterior lighting plan of an approved preliminary development plan known as Midwest Commerce Center for the reasons and subject to the stipulations set forth within the resolution, and that resolution number 069-18 be adopted, approving an amendment to the exterior lighting plan for final development plan for a warehouse building at 17001 Mercury Street in the Midwest Commerce Center for the reasons and subject to the stipulations set forth within the resolution.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second on this item. Any questions? Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Schaefer.
Aye.
Vice Chairman Allen.
Aye.
Commissioner Klicka.
Aye.
Commissioner Osterhaus.
Aye.
Commissioner Ashcraft.
Yes.
Commissioner Brown.
Aye.
Motion approved. Thank you. Item 7.
Resolution number 066-18, consider City of Olathe application number FP-18-019, a final plat for single-family residential development on about 18 acres to be known as Humpford Second Plat in the vicinity of 144th Street and Lakeshore Drive, Olathe, Kansas.
Mr. Leipzig.
Morning, Mr. Chairman, or Vice Chairman, members of the board, Jay Leipzig, Planning Department. This item is from the City of Olathe. It is brought before you. It's final plat for a single-family residential development, Huntford. It is within 1 mile of the New Century Airport. The City of Olathe approved it on July the 11th, 2018. The Airport Commission approved it July 25th, 2018. Staff is also recommending approval. This is for an additional 37 units for the final plat, consistent, and it is consistent with the preliminary plat and plan as well.
Thank you. Any questions at this time from the commission? Is there anyone in the audience that would like to address this issue? Hearing none, it's back before the board. Mr. Brown.
Thank you. I move that resolution number 066-18 be adopted, approving City of Olathe application number FP-18-019 for the reasons and subject to the stipulations set forth within the resolution.
Second.
We have a motion and a second on this item. Any final comments? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Commissioner Schaefer.
Aye.
Vice Chairman Allen.
Aye.
Commissioner Klicka.
Aye.
Commissioner Osterhaus.
Aye.
Commissioner Ashcraft.
Yes.
Commissioner Brown.
Aye.
Motion approved. Thank you. Item 8.
Resolution number WD 18-030, conduct a public hearing and consider authorizing funds for Johnson County wastewater infrastructure improvement projects in an amount not to exceed $3,400,000, and consider approving agreements with the City of Lenexa and the City of Shawnee for sanitary sewer improvement.
This is a public hearing that is opened. Mr. Pacieri.
Good morning, Vice Chair Allen and Commissioner. Susan Picaric with Wastewater this morning. The request you have before you is a multiple projects briefing sheet for wastewater capital improvements that we've included in our capital improvement program. The first request is for $2.9 million. This is for collection system asset renewal. These are projects that we've identified through our asset management program. Each year we inspect over 100 miles of our sanitary sewer in order to assess the condition of those sanitary sewer lines. We identify pipes and manholes that are in need of renewal. And we do that either through repair, replacement, or for pipe, we also do cured in place pipe lining, or CIPP, you might hear me say sometimes. Wastewater also uses these funds to help us protect sanitary sewers that cross streams. Services, we will utilize professional engineering services, cured in place pipelining, and sewer line renewal, existing term and supply contracts to accomplish projects that are included as part of this request. For construction projects that are bid, we'll return to the board for contract award at that time. And the current firms that are are listed in the briefing sheet for those term and supply contracts. The next item is for two city street and storm projects. One is located within the city of Shawnee and the other within the city of Lenexa. The county has right-of-way agreements with several cities in the county, and those agreements allow us to reimburse the cities for sewer adjustments and relocations that are within the city's right-of-way in order for the city to accommodate street and storm improvements that they're doing. The funding that we're requesting today is for $350,000. And as I mentioned, for two projects. The first one is in the city of Shawnee. So the map up on your screen right now is the city of Shawnee's project. This is Flint Street, and so they are making improvements between Johnson Drive and 62nd Terrace on Flint. You see the red shaded area here. The green line represents the sanitary sewers that are existing there. So where the red shading overlaps, that's where our sanitary sewer lines will be impacted as part of their project. The second project is in the city of Lenexa. And so to orient you a little bit, the road along the top here is Prairie Star Parkway or 95th Street. And just off the map to the south is K10. And the city of Lenexa is constructing Ridgeview Road between those two streets. Here just to the west, you'll see Mill Creek. We've got an existing sanitary sewer there shown by green line. But as part of this project, the city of Lenexa is going to install casing pipe, shown here with this dark red line. And that casing pipe that will go under Ridgeview Road and the future 98th Street, that will allow us to then, in the future, construct a sewer when sewers are needed in order to serve this area here to the east of the new Ridgeview Road. The last request, let's see here, last request is for flow monitoring, and that request is in the amount of $150,000. We periodically use flow monitoring to help us understand what's going on with the sewers, identify areas where we need to remove inflow and infiltration. We also use it as data inputs into our hydraulic models, and that helps us identify areas where we might have capacity issues. For this request, we'll be monitoring areas in the northeastern portion of our service area, as well as areas that flow to Indian Creek and upstream of an existing pump station, Lone Elm, which is located at 183rd Street and Lone Elm Road. Engineering services for these projects will be provided by the firms selected under the request proposal process and previously awarded term and supply contracts by the board for services of this type. And the current firms are listed in your briefing sheet. The total amount of the request is $3.4 million. All of these projects were included in our capital improvement program and financial plan, which we presented to the board in May of this year. And I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Again, we're in a public hearing on this item. Any questions of the commission? Commissioner Ashcraft.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, or Mr. Vice Chairman. I'm not sure what the formality is. Mr. Allen, I'm sorry. Mr. Allen, yesterday I had the opportunity to visit with Ms. McCarrick and Mr. Waters. I appreciate them setting up a meeting with me to talk about this issue. And Mr. Chairman, I will support this agenda item, but I offer this observation, and it's an observation that I have articulated before. The first item in this package, the collection system renewal, I don't question the need for it and the desire. I think the staff has done a good job over the years of trying to be at least aggressive in dealing with the needs of the system, and I respect that. The challenge I have is somewhat procedural again, and that has to do with the use of term and supply contracts. And I understand the process that we've gone through before to select the best firms and the prices that they quote for those services in a generic sense or an exploratory sense or a model, and those firms are good. And I have no concerns about that, but when we have individual projects come forward, what I struggle with, and I expressed this to both Ms. McCarrick and Mr. Waters, is that where is the competitive energy by these qualified firms to put forward the best pricing possible? And this is a relatively small project, $3 million. I mean, not for my household income, it's a big project, but for the county, it's not overly large, but one that makes me wonder, what are the motivations? And I know our staff are attentive to this, but without the competitive nature of and I'll use the term bid, and I'm sure that that is not the right term of art, but that competitive energy among competing entities to offer the best price, I just am not comfortable with this, and I offer that as a perspective, although having said that, I respect Ms. McCarrick and will support this item.
Thank you. Any other comments from the commission? Again, this is a public hearing. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to address this issue? Hearing none, the public hearing is closed. Mr. Osterhaus?
I'll move the board approve resolution number WD 18-030, authorizing funds for Johnson County wastewater infrastructure improvement projects in an amount not to exceed $3,400,000 and approving agreements with the City of Lenexa and the City of Shawnee for sanitary sewer improvements.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second on this item. Any final comments? Hearing none, clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Schaefer?
Aye.
Vice Chairman Allen?
Aye.
Commissioner Klicka?
Aye.
Commissioner Osterhaus?
Aye.
Commissioner Ashcraft?
Yes.
Commissioner Brown?
Aye.
Motion approved. Thank you. Item 9.
Please note, the board is sitting as the governing board of Fire District Number 2 for item number 9. Consider approving the August 2018 payables for Fire District Number 2.
Good morning, Chief Francis.
Good morning. Jim Francis, Fire Chief, Fire District Number 2. Here today to seek approval of our monthly accounts payable, $262,413.51. That's bills paid through July 18th through August 21st. Be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Are there any questions at this time? Hearing none, Mr. Klicka?
Mr. Chairman, can this not in the future go on consent docket?
I think we have to sit as the fire board to approve this.
All right. I move the board approves the payables for August 2018 as shown in the check register from July 18th through August 21st, 2018.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second on this item. Any questions of the commission? Sir, anyone in the audience that would like to address this issue? Hearing none, clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Schaefer?
Aye.
Vice Chairman Allen?
Aye.
Commissioner Klicka?
Aye.
Commissioner Osterhaus?
Aye.
Commissioner Ashcraft?
Yes.
Commissioner Brown?
Aye.
Motion approved. Thank you. Reports and communications. Ms. Postal Ferguson?
Thank you, Chairman. You have before you the SERI report from June, and unemployment rate is 3%. Single-family homes sold in June was 1,344 for a year-to-date of 5,490, which is very similar to year-to-date last year. The total number of single-family building permits issued in June was 180, or year-to-date 1,010, and that's up 14% year-to-date from last year. And the report is attached. The City of Merriam approved a resolution for a public hearing set for September 24th concerning approval of the Vavra Park redevelopment project plan in the I-35 TIF district generally located at Shawnee Mission Parkway and Antioch Road. And the information is attached in your packet. The final item is the fire district attached to the fire chief's report and monthly call sheets for 2018. Chief Francis is, one thing I'd like to point out is Chief Francis is working with the legal department on the 2019 Spring Hill contract. Other than that, Chief is here if you have questions for that item.
Any questions of the commission? Commissioner Ashcraft?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chief, the report, Johnson County Fire District Call Breakdown 2018. What should we be looking at and what should we be asking you about on that report? It almost seems pro forma and incidental, and I don't mean that, that sounds probably harsher, but I mean, yes, sir.
The document you're looking at? Okay. That's just our annual call statistics. We break it down, call statistics for fire, EMS, and then by political jurisdiction we serve and the calls that each fire station we have responds to. So we track that monthly, we track that annually, and we determine increases, increased call volume in specific areas, so we watch that in conjunction with our performance measures.
Okay. Is this report that you've developed, or is this something that the state requires you?
This is a report that we develop.
Okay. Have you ever considered using or looking at maybe some kind of digital dashboard that would kind of highlight the things that we look at? I would suggest that Ms. Myers is a potential resource,
Okay.
not to dump on Ms. Myers, but she's taken this cause up a couple of different places. And just looking at that in terms of sifting through some of the information to help us understand what we should be looking at or not look at. They may be good numbers, but I just don't have a good sense. And Mr. Klicka wants to disagree with me, so fair enough.
Commissioner Klicka?
Mr. Chairman, thank you. Commissioner, probably if we took this report, compared it to District 1 and Northwest District, some of the questions we've been asking about the potential of consolidating these services might begin to make a little more sense. Because in trying to move assets around and our personnel around to where they're needed without having certain boundaries in place would probably be an interesting education for us.
Thank you.
Thank you. Penny, I did have...
Sorry to jump ahead of you, Chief, there. You knew it was coming.
I did have one comment on the Syria indicators. The sales tax receipts were up 9.2%. Approximately, I'm doing this from memory, $540 million. I don't know if we would hold that increase the full year, but if we did, that could approximately be $1.2 billion increase in sales in Johnson County. 6% of that goes to the state of Kansas. That figure alone would be an additional $72 million just from potential sales tax increase. Income tax is going from 5 to 5.5%. That's 10% more from Johnson County residents. Our average household income in Johnson County is $104,000. Again, substantial more money going to the state of Kansas. Property tax increases. Property value increases. Again, over the county went up. The state has a 20 mil levy for schools statewide, millions of dollars of additional revenue to the state of Kansas. So Johnson County does do their part in supporting us here locally and at the state. You put those numbers together, they're substantial numbers with the income tax. Again, I would be guessing it'd probably be over an additional $200 million a year. So quite a bit of revenue from Johnson County. Mr. Brown?
Thank you, Commissioner. To tack on to what you said, I've seen the statistics and the numbers. At the end of the day, Johnson County is an economic engine that runs the state of Kansas. So they're clearly, every time we are moving the bar up here, we're moving the bar up for the state of Kansas. Clearly, that's simple. One other comment, the conversation, just to be completely transparent with everybody in the room, conversation about consolidation of fire districts. I'm prepared to have that conversation and venture into that water when my fire chiefs come to me and tell me that their boards are ready to do that. So I'm ready and willing if that's what those districts decide they want to do. So I just wanted to make it clear so we were all on the same page. Thank you.
Thank you. Any final comments?
No, that's it. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Would move on to commission comments.
Could we extend that conversation, Mr. Chairman, not to interrupt you? Would that, Mr. Brown, just for clarification, would that necessitate all the districts doing it simultaneously, or would you consider, you've got 3, correct? Two.
Northwest and North.
Correct. It would either one of them, I mean, would they both have to do it together? Or?
Not necessarily, no.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Thank you. Comments, Commissioner Schaefer?
Thank you. Thank you, Vice Chair. Several items to report on this past week. It's been a busy week for a number of us, I am aware. Last Friday morning, a number of us, Joe, myself, and a number of other city council members from the city of Leawood, including the mayor, had a chance, and we had a chance to visit the existing construction at Tomahawk Creek. Absolutely amazing. The size and the breadth and the width of that thing, and what is going on, and how quickly McCarthy's taking care of our business over there. Susan, thank you for that, and say thank you to Tammy as well. Okay, nice, very nice event. I'm looking forward to seeing it in another few months when we do it again, okay? Thank you. Number two, that same afternoon, Friday afternoon, the Northeast Mayors got together, sponsored by Mike Kelly, the mayor of Roland Park. We do that once a month. We talk about issues that are affecting our cities on a monthly basis. Yesterday afternoon, had a chance to attend the League of Women Voters event. They're celebrating some big anniversaries, celebrating the right to vote. That's secured, I think, somewhere 90 to 100 years ago. A number of events that are occurring this week, and that was an event at Colonial Church in Prairie Village yesterday afternoon. And then last night, I know a number of staff members were there and commissioners. We had a chance again to visit with Jim Fulton, the new superintendent of Shawnee Mission School District. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Klicka?
Thank you. First of all, Commissioner Brown and I had the opportunity to represent the commission last week in D.C. With an invitation that was provided to us, our other fellow commissioners around the state, and Commissioner Brown, I think it's what the top largest, the mayors of the top 10 largest cities in each, Nebraska and Kansas. So from ours, Mayors Gerlach, Boehm, Copeland, and I believe Prairie Village. Mayor was there, as well as Leavenworth were in attendance. And we had an opportunity. It was just a very, very impressive program that was put on. And the takeaway I should note that we did have Ben Carson was one of the speakers. Kellyanne was a speaker dealing on opiates. We had representatives from all the major departments were in attendance and visiting with us. And then Vice President Pence came in and visited with us for a while. The takeaway on this, and it was not a political deal whatsoever, the takeaway, and I'll ask Commissioner Brown if he wants to chime in on this, was that the administration basically said, hey, you all have enough hassles trying to go through the bureaucracies and getting help. We're going to make these folks accessible to you. And with just a phone call, and they gave us a hot sheet of all the contacts that we need in DC in the various departments, from transportation to wherever, and literally a one-stop call. And with a commitment by the administration that they were sincerely there to help us through that. So it opened up some doors, and it was, the communication was just phenomenal. I've never seen that ever happen. Usually we have to work through our congressmen in a lot of areas to put pressure on certain things. But these folks basically have said, hey, when you're in DC, if you want to talk to us individually, we'll have time to do it. Otherwise, get on the phone with us. So, Commissioner Brown, I appreciate you being at that. I don't know if you want to add anything to that.
Just, it was part of my notes too. It was simply that the Vice President Pence made it very clear that should we not take advantage of the names and the contacts that we've gained while we're there, and the list of email addresses and phone numbers and names of undersecretaries, and figure out how to use those to capitalize on those for our counties, for our cities, as we depended on who you were in the audience, that it was an opportunity being missed. They gave those out for them to be used, and they want to hear from us. So that would be the only clarification I'd put in.
And I think at least the representatives from Kansas that were there and that we interacted with on a regular basis all came back with the same feeling that we had. And so it was well worth the time and effort. And should that invite come again, I encourage everyone to participate with that. So did want to let you all know that. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Ashcraft?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, I don't know if you were going to mention this, but this evening at 6 o'clock, the KCP&L public hearing is being held at the Best Building Conference Center on the KU Edwards campus. I don't know if any staff will be in attendance, but they're going to be talking about their their rate hike and how the consolidation with Atmos, which was a money-saving opportunity, somehow helped mitigate this rate hike, or whatever the argument will be.
Thank you, and thank you for making that comment. Commissioner Osterhaus?
Yeah, just a few things, mostly around our Shawnee Mission School District. So Thursday, we had the opportunity to go to the State of the School District address. Dr. Fulton laid out some very ambitious, but also some very community-oriented plans for the school district, so I was really excited and happy to be that and happy to hear that. I've heard from a number of people who are very happy about the openness that he's been and how accessible he's been to the public, so that was very nice. And then along those same lines, we had the opportunity Wednesday morning to meet with Dr. Fulton one-on-one with some of our staff. Penny Postek-Ferguson, our county manager, was there, and Jill Geller from Parks, to talk about the partnerships that the county and the school district have in common and some other places that we can leverage things, you know, IT services, libraries, those sort of things. So that was a very good, small, intimate conversation, but one that was, again, reflective of how open Dr. Fulton is to working with the community and his partners on the school district and the services they provide. So very happy for that. And then finally, as you know, I serve as the head of the the Shawnee Trails committee that gets new people plugged into scouting. So if you're interested in anything scouting related in the Shawnee Trails district, I'd be happy to plug you in wherever your area of expertise is, and feel free to just reach out to me. I'd be happy to move you in that direction. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Brown?
Thank you. Yes, I've got actually several items. Went to D.C., met with several undersecretaries, met with the Vice President, with Ben Carson, and with Kellyanne Conway, Special Counselor to the President, who gave a very powerful and meaningful talk about opioid use and how the White House recognizes and the federal government recognizes that that's a local, on-the-ground issue, and that their move and their push to try to do something to get in front of that. So they are aware, and that it was time well spent. It was hectic. It was hot. I've never been so hot in a suit in my life as I was walking to the White House for the conference, but it was awesome. I wouldn't take it back. I would do it 1,000,000 times. It was fantastic. Yesterday, Johnson County Airport Commission Board met, and business as usual. It's all good. Airports are doing very well. Reminder that school has started. Watch out for those school zones. Those kids are back out walking to and from school. I had a really good friend of mine lose his wife this week, and I would say that, you know, life is short and that it's sweet, and that's very fleeting, and something from my Catholic upbringing and then time in the Knights of Columbus goes tempus fugit memento mori. Life is short, remember death. I'll be keeping her and their family in my prayers, along with Fire District No. 1 Fire Chief Rob Kirk, who is not well, and I ask that you join me in adding them to your prayer list. They all need it. And then finally, I would mention that August 19th, it had been mentioned here previously, but on August 19th was the 98th anniversary of ratification of the 19th Amendment. I have a strong mother, I have a strong wife, I have beautiful, strong daughters, all of which, along with the people I work with and the people I know and the people that I share the commonality of being an American, I'm proud to share that power and walk in there equally yoked into a voting booth, and that everybody's vote counts the same. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. I have no comments at this time.
Mr. Chairman.
I'm sorry, Mr. Klinka.
I did want to ask a question here. This morning I had an opportunity to visit with Public Works Director Brian Pedig, and we were covering a number of issues, road issues that we're wrestling with. But he expressed some concern as far as the safety of his folks that are out on the road there, and that folks are being a little more aggressive. He's having, whether it's texting, talking on the phone, in some of the construction zones. So he's anticipating that he may be making some type of request to promote some more help in protecting the the folks who are out on the street, which I'm definitely in favor of. Safety has got to be first for these. But to go along with that, it raises the question, and I guess I have to yield to legal counsel on this. I don't know how we set the fines for traffic violations in work areas in the unincorporated areas of the county. But along with any potential requests that Brian may be bringing forward here through the county manager, I'd also like some consideration whether or not fines where our fines in work zones are doubled like they are in other parts of the metropolitan area, that when there are work crews out there, if there's violators need to be penalized at a rate to help maybe offset the added cost of trying to protect our employees out there. So I'd appreciate if that would be given some consideration as that discussion comes forward. Okay?
Thank you. Commissioner Ashcraft.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, but Mr. Klicka's comment reminded me of something. Stormwater Management, Mr. Pedick's crew, Lee Kallenberger? Am I pronouncing his name correctly? They did a presentation to the Olathe City Council this week talking about the new strategic plan and focusing on watersheds rather than political jurisdictions. I commend them for that. It was well received in the city of Olathe. I mean, that's a big shift, so, and we should be proud of that. Mr. Chairman, I know you served on that committee during some of those discussions, but that is something that is going to have a significant impact, but working out the details I know will be a challenge. But if you would pass on to staff that they were well received in Olathe, and hopefully they will be well received in some other cities, maybe the one up north and that's on the border that Mr. Allen may be familiar with may also have a good reaction.
Hopefully so. So thank you.
Very good. Thank you.
That does conclude the items on the printed agenda. We are adjourned. We will take a short break for returning for the agenda review. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Board of County Commissioners agenda review for August 3, 2018. Item 1 is to consider approving the August 9, 2018 business session minutes. Clerk, item 2.
Consider approving and authorizing an increase of $118,000 to the Public Works Vehicle Storage Canopy Project account, bringing the total project authorization to $311,000, and to authorize the reallocation and use of Public Work Fund reserves in an amount not to exceed $118,000. Excuse me, we need to take the roll again.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Here.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Schaefer.
Here.
Commissioner Allen.
Here.
Commissioner Click is in the building. Commissioner Osterhaus.
Here.
Commissioner Ashcraft.
Here.
Commissioner Brown.
Here.
And Chairman Eilert is absent.
Thank you. Good morning, David.
Good morning, Commissioners. Dave Rotney with the Budget and Financial Planning Department. This first item here goes along with the next item, which is to approve a contract to construct the vehicle canopy at the Public Works facility. I would like to note that the canopy was originally a part of the Public Works facility, but due to budget constraints and there was some stoppage of that project, and on a restart, we had to eliminate that out of the actual project. But there was thought that in the future this would come back before the board for some action. What we are requesting here today, or actually next week, is an increase in the project authorization of $118,000 for the construction of the vehicle canopy at the Public Works facility, and for this additional funds to be come out of the Public Works fund reserves. This increase is requested primarily due to an error in our original budgeting estimates that were put together last year, where the erection costs were not included. Prior to going out for bids, the Facilities Department had discovered the estimate error and had developed a new estimate of probable cost. The Facilities Department, in conjunction with Public Works, determined that the project was still a valid one, even at the new costs. And proceeded forward with the bid process. What Public Works and Facilities think is still a worthwhile project, even given the additional cost, as there are several benefits, one of which is protecting the equipment from the elements, and that would help us keep that deterioration and maintenance costs down, probably also allowing for a little bit longer life of the actual equipment itself, and help on productivity issues as it relates to those equipment, so keeping the equipment downtime at a minimum. And then also there's, Public Works thinks that with having this canopy would allow for more rapid response to winter-related events, because the trucks themselves could be preloaded. With that, I'd like to note that Brad Reinhardt from Facilities and Brian Pedig from Public Works are here to also answer any questions you might have as it relates to this, but I'm also open to questions. Thanks.
Thank you. Any questions of the commission? Commissioner Ashcraft?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Ranty, conceptually, I think this makes sense. I want to ask a kind of a leading question. Mr. Waters, do you remember by chance how much we spent for the artwork out there? It was about $125,000, $140,000, something like that. It was six figures, I know.
I believe you're correct.
Ballpark-ish.
Ballpark.
Okay, so to spend at least as much to protect the equipment that provide direct services as the artwork that's in the ditch behind the electrified fence, I think, is a worthwhile argument. But I had a procedural question, and you were upfront about this, and I respect that evidently we during this process, and maybe Mr. Reinhardt was involved in this, I don't know, but we somehow missed the erection cost component.
Correct.
And so we need to include that. The question behind that, though, is if we had known that and it was in the original bidding process, would we still have come up with the same selection? This is not a substantial amount, but were those the vendor that we selected? Was this a clear winner, or was it close? And if we had included this, may not have won. Are you tracking with my question there, Mr. Reinhardt?
I think so, Commissioner. I'm Brad Reinhardt with, excuse me, Brad Reinhardt with the Facilities Department. I don't think this would have had an impact on our bidding process. This was really around the upfront budgeting and CIP submission process. We still would have gone through our normal purchasing practice, invitation for bid, and I think they would have come out.
All right, very good. Thank you.
Any further questions of the commission? Consent or action?
Consent's fine with me.
This will be on the consent agenda. Item 3.
Invitation for bid, IFB number 2018-050. Consider authorizing a contract with Lloyd Builders to engineer and construct an open-air metal vehicle canopy at the Public Works facility for a total amount not to exceed $274,234.
Thank you. Good morning, Brad.
Good morning, Vice Chair and Commissioners. Brad Reinhardt with the Facilities Department. Yes, this is the companion piece to the prior item that Mr. Ratney was speaking to, and this is the next week we'll be requesting award of a contract with Lloyd Builders for the construction, the implementation of this vehicle canopy for the Public Works facility. We had 4 bidders who submitted responsive bids, and Lloyd Builders was the lowest bid submission. They were reviewed by our consultant that we engaged throughout this process, visited with them, and determined that they have the capabilities and the experience to implement this project for the county. I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you. Any questions? Again, consent or action?
Consent's fine.
Consent's fine on
This will be
too.
on the consent agenda also. Thank you. Item 4.
Resolution number 060-18, application number SW-CU-3402, GA. Consider a request from Crown Castle, applicant, tower owner, and the APAC Kansas landowner for conditional use permit renewal for a communication tower at 16325 Gardner Road on property zoned RUR Rural District.
Good morning.
Morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Jay Leipzig, Planning Department. This item is from the Southwest Consolidated Zoning Board. That board approved this item on July 25th, 2018. Staff is also recommending approval for this renewal. This was originally approved in 2003 for a 5-year term, and then was renewed again for a 10-year term. And so this is actually the 3rd time this has been in front of you, and there are no changes to the project or to the tower.
Thank you. Any questions? Again, this is a planning item. This has to stay on action. Item 5.
Resolution number 061-18, application SW-CU-3410, MC. Consider a request from Robert and Sharon Finley, applicant landowners, for conditional use permit renewal for parking 2 large trucks at 38455 West 151st Street on property zoned RUR Rural District.
Good morning.
Morning, Mr. Vice Chair, members of the board, Jay Leipzig, the Planning Department. This item is also out of the Southwest Consolidated Zoning Board. That group met on July 25th, 2018 to approve this item. Staff is also recommending approval. This is a renewal, originally approved in 2001. It's actually a reduction from 3 large trucks to 2 large trucks in this current renewal.
Okay. Thank you. Any questions? Again, this is a planning item, needs to stay on action. Item 6.
Resolution number 070-18, application number SW-80UP-3411, GA. Consider a request from Brian and Stephanie Robbie, applicant landowners, for an accessory dwelling unit permit located at 24997 West 210th Street on 1.3 acres on property zoned RUR Rural District.
Good morning.
Good morning, Jay Leipzig, Planning Department. This item is also out of the Southwest Solid Zoning Board. It was approved by that board on July 25th, 2018. Staff is also recommending approval. This is for an existing accessory structure, basically to finish out the top portion for an accessory dwelling unit. It's 912 square feet, which barely, it does exceed the maximum amount for an administrative approval. That's why this is brought before you, as well as the smaller acreage and the lot size. The reason that's before you.
Any questions at this time? Again, this is a planning item, needs to stay on action. That concludes the items on our agenda. We are adjourned. Have a wonderful weekend. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chairman, doesn't